4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
And actor Aubrey Plaza. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys.
Thanks for having us. This is cool.
So Megan, I'd love to hear a little bit.
That was very aggressive.
This is like an extra big ring.
That was a choice.
Well, Megan, what was your general inspiration for when you first started writing this?
I'm from Canada, not far from where we filmed the movie, so it's Maisy actually. But I was just home during the pandemic. I just had my daughter, and I was feeling really nostalgic and kind of wondering why I ever wanted to leave such a beautiful place. And kind of the scene that's in the movie with Chad and Elliot, where they're talking about, you know, there was like the last time that you played with your friends, and you didn't know it was the last time. It was really that feeling that I couldn't stop thinking about. And then I was sort of like, oh, it would be cool to like, would I actually want to go back and tell myself it was the last time? And that's where I started trying to figure out this conversation between an older and younger version, and then the mushrooms and, you know, Chad dying all came later.
Well, Maisy, how did you first get involved into playing young Elliot?
Well, I read Megan's script for The Fallout, and then I like fell in love with her through that. We did like a call, and my mom was like in the room, and I hung up, and I was like, "Hi, she is everything I've ever wanted to be in this life." Like I just like loved. I just felt like really like I was so inspired. I was so like lit up, and then from then I was like obsessed with the idea of getting to work with Megan. We like stayed in touch, and then me and my sister like wrote a song for Fallout, which was the coolest thing ever that we got to do. And then yeah, when I got the script for Bass, it was like I knew that it was Megan, obviously, so I knew to take it very seriously. But it was just such an undeniably perfect script. Like everyone that read it was like so immediately in, and just yeah, it was just so layered and beautiful, and like so emotional and heartfelt, while also being funny to like. It's like hard to like read a script and like laugh at something, and I genuinely found it so funny, and yeah, I was just in love with it.
Aubrey, how did you come on to the film?
I got a call and they said, there's this movie called My Old Ass, and I said, I'm in. I didn't even read it. I just like the title.
And you're the old ass.
And they're like, and you're the old ass. And I was like, I knew it. And that's how it started. I read the script, and just like Maisy, I loved it. I kind of loved the big concept kind of sci-fi element to it, but also that it kind of does both. It's this really grounded, like heartwarming kind of story, but then it also has this like weird, like trippy time travel thing going on, and so it just kind of I just loved it. I love movies where you have to use your imagination like that and you get transported, and then I met Megan, and I love Megan, and she was like, it's gonna be a really good vibe, and I was like, that sounds right up my alley. But it was.
I think I got the call from the producers, so I was like out on a jet ski. And I didn't have my phone. I came back to the doctor like, Tom's called you 37 times, and they were like, Aubrey wants to FaceTime. So
Were you like still in your like?
Yeah,
You did call me from a jet ski.
No, well, I ran up to the buggy, and I was like still wearing my life jacket, and I
You
didn't
were wearing
realize
a life jacket.
until I got on the Zoom and I saw myself. I was like, oh my god, I forgot to take my life jacket off. But then at the first time when she got to Muskoka, we picked her up. We were all staying in different cabins on the water, and hers was across the bay from where we were, and we just like went out on the paddle board. We were like, meet us on the dock. And she was just standing there with a bottle of wine, and she got on the back of the paddle boat.
Yeah, I
So
just
it
sitting
wasn't
on the
even
dock, and yeah, I've never met a director like that ever before. Just like slowly paddling up to me, and I was like, "Whoop! Here she comes!" Right at me. How's this gonna go?
Well, Maisy, this is your first big feature role in film. How did it feel like kind of going into that and preparing to film?
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is my first movie. It was my first thing I'd done. Yeah, I hadn't worked in like 4 years. I was on a show when I was younger, but then I just like went back to school and did all that stuff. And so yeah, I wasn't working for a long time, so it was definitely like a proper re-entrance and it was very scary. But honestly, everyone involved was like, I felt so safe with Megan, like genuinely like so comfy, and it felt so right. I think that like knowingness that it was like genuinely so correct helped me a lot to just like take it on. But yeah, it was definitely like it was. I looked down and like saw like number 1 on it. It did not look real to me. Like it was so wild. But yeah, it was such a sweet time.
Well, clearly, like, the admiration and love the three of you have for each other is very palpable. Well, how did the three of you collaborate on creating Elliot as a character, both like younger and older, and then obviously together?
Well, we built it around Maisy. Maisy was attached first, all the characters, which was really special because you don't always get to do that. And so we really got to like chemistry read everybody with Maisy and really make sure that everybody felt connected. And the part of older Elliot originally, when I first read the script, was like a woman in her like 50s or late 40s. And so then we're really focused on like who looks the most like Maisy and who's got blonde hair and putting all these photos side by side. And then at a certain point, but nothing really ever felt right energetically and chemistry wise. And then at some point, you know, Aubrey's name came up and it was like, it really was that moment that I'll never forget, like where I was sitting and I was like, wait, I love her. Like I'm such a fan of her. I think she's so genius. And I knew Maisy was as well. And it just felt like so much better to me all of a sudden, and also funnier that she wasn't even 40 yet, but Maisy thinks she's so old, and it just added this whole other layer to it. And yeah, and so then we sent it to Aubrey, and it was just like, oh my god, I hope she likes it because she's like the only one we want. And honestly, she read it and liked it, so yeah.
Maisy, what about for you?
I mean, it was not a typical situation because I was already filming for 2 weeks before we had like knew who our older Elliot was. So in a normal situation, like literally in any other situation, like I would be matching Aubrey, like she would not be changing a single, like I would be coming to her, and like in this it was obviously because there was already footage of my like baby Elliot. I was already like doing something specific, I guess. So yeah, we kind of like met more in the middle, which was great. Like my tattoos were put on Aubrey. I don't think it's shown in the movie, which makes me so sad because it was the coolest thing ever. Aubrey walked in, like had it was. I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine seeing your tattoo on Aubrey Plaza's body? Like that's really
I don't have tattoos because you know my body is a temple. Yes. Well, no, but I think how it went down is exactly how it should have gone down. I think because it is totally about baby Elliot and the character that you started out creating. So the timing of it was good because they sent me some scenes of Maisy, doing her scenes, like some dailies. So I got to kind of like watch her and from afar, and then I got to set and we really only had like a couple days. But it was I feel like Megan like handled it exactly right. She wasn't, like she said, she wasn't putting pressure on us like mimicking each other, looking exactly like or anything like that. It was more just like, let's all hang out and just let everyone like wash over each other. And that's kind of what we did. We just like kind of just hung out and had fun.
And Aubrey's like involvement and attachment also like set the tone so much for the movie. Like immediately the second Aubrey was attached, it just like everything made sense to me, and I was like, okay, I like get this movie, I like know what the tone is going to be. I feel like you have such a specific, like, I don't know, you just like all, you know what I mean, like it's just a specific vibe. So yeah, I feel like I was like Aubrey like made the character like
The missing piece of
it was just like the whole vibe was just everything just kind of fell into place. I feel like when Aubrey was attached.
Megan, why were mushrooms the kind of a gateway to the sci-fi element of the film as opposed to something else? Was there another element that you had wanted to kind of just explore? That
was always mushrooms, but weirdly it kind of actually felt like one of the most grounded ways into the story. Like, you know, we reference movies like 13 Going on 30 where she goes in the closet and there's like magic sparkle dust or whatever, but like you don't care because you love the story and you're along for the ride and it's a buy-in. But we did want it to be like the most grounded buy-in possible to this like crazy idea, and I just felt like, you know, 18-year-olds going camping in Canada would probably do mushrooms. I don't know.
The script was so like grounded and well written that I didn't even realize how crazy of a concept it was until we were until right now. Actually, I didn't even realize that it's like couldn't really happen. Like, or maybe it could, but it's like
I the idea to kind of be like,
yeah, it really like it's so funny. I like really did not think about it being like until someone's like, oh, what's the movie that you did about, and then I go to explain it, and then I get a little bit like, and then I realize I'm like, but no, it's like really actually really good and really grounded, but yeah.
Well, I love that the film is a coming of age movie in two different ways, obviously for baby Elliot, but also for older Elliot as well. Why did you want to show it through that kind of two-pronged approach, and what did you think that Elliot and Elliot learned from one another?
I think as I was writing it, I obviously feel like I relate more to older Elliot at this point, and even the mom character a lot when I was writing the movie. But it was fun to kind of, coming of age happens in so many different ways, so many different times. But I love the idea that, really it is a two-hander in so many ways, where older Elliot is the one that really has the massive takeaway at the end and the lesson that she has to learn. But I was kind of figuring it out. I think like writing is very therapeutic for me, and so I was probably figuring out some of this shit as I was writing the script.
Yeah, well, and how is it for the both of you playing through this?
For me, like, it was heavy. I think, the idea of meeting your younger self and talking to your younger self, like, it's if you really, really, really do it and you really visualize it and you do it, which is like, I've done it before, like in therapy, like, things like that. I know, it's hilarious, right? But like, sorry, I'm just really, I'm so sorry. But I think there is something very healing about like that idea, and kind of like taking care of yourself is like such a concept that I'm still learning about, and I think that twist in the movie for me was what I love so much about it. You do not see it coming that older Elliot is going to kind of like learn from younger Elliot some wisdom, and for me it was about kind of like just choosing love and not fear, and like trusting that everything's happening for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I like learned so much from it. Doing a movie like that at 18 too. I like when I read it and when I filmed it, I don't know why I don't know. It's like so embarrassing when I look back to it, because at the time, like, I feel like I read it like as if I was like them. Like, I feel like I read it as if I was the old ass, and like looking down, I'm like, oh, she's so naive. Like, I have already figured all of this out. And then when I filmed it, like, I was so much more like in that than I think I thought I was. So it was just like a meaningful thing. I think it's like it's like not the first time it's ever been thought of, like, what would you tell your future self, but it's such a universal feeling of like that it just is moving if you like are open to it being moving.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys, it's primarily scripted, but I know you guys got to do a little bit of improv. I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the things that either showed up on screen or some of the things that maybe didn't, that you wish had.
I mean, we did.
Kiss?
The what?
What? The kiss.
The kiss was like half improv, I guess, half scripted, because it is scripted that I ask if I can kiss you, but I laid one on you.
Yeah, you did. You made it in the shot. Yeah, that actual two-shot was when I said to Aubrey, I was like, do you mind if we just let her, like just tell her she can actually kiss you? And Aubrey, of course, was like, what? I don't care. And then Maisy was, that her real reaction where she was like, really? Can I?
Yeah, like, you can really see me for a second, like, I fully break and I'm like, wait, can I actually? And every time
that was day one, too. That was like how we started.
Yeah, that was our first scene that we filmed. That really got us in there. Yeah.
There was a really funny like bit that Aubrey did in the campfire, because there was this whole like undercurrent that kind of got cut out where you have like a secret crush on Ruthie, played by Maddie Ziegler.
So real.
And there was like a whole thing where Aubrey's talking about, like, she's like, oh yeah, you and Ruthie do one time to hook up in Italy, and like it only happens once. But she went into like all these crazy details about like the town and what exactly happened. And
I did it. Me?
you
Yeah,
did
about like the back alley or like something. I
you
remember.
were like, yeah, and like you said some wild things. About one night in Italy, and it was so great, and I wanted to keep it in so badly, but it was just like a kill your darlings thing. But it made me laugh so much.
One of my favorite thing about the film, which is like hard to choose from, is I love how casually queerness is treated in it. You know, it's not a big deal that she's a queer woman. You know, why was that important for you to show? And then, you know, like, and I love the little kind of side where she's like, this doesn't make you any less queer that you're falling for this guy. And I found that scene to also be just so touching. And, you know, I know as the old asses, that's sort of an you didn't see that on screen.
For sure, yeah. I think it was always just a part of Elliot. I think we talked a lot about how coming out stories are really important, for sure. But this wasn't necessarily that. That was just a part of Elliot and a part of her journey, but not the whole story. And I think that having like more open conversations about queerness and being a Gen Z kind of go hand in hand, and it just felt really organic to the story and to the character. And yeah, it was just never really not going to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved like the conversation around labels. I feel like
Yeah, like that line was important.
Yeah, that line like
Because
felt.
like a band doesn't make you any less queer.
Yeah, it like felt very right. Yeah, I feel like I've always had an interesting relationship with labels. I was like raised in a way where it was I was never pressured into a label, which I know is like not everyone's experience. A lot of people are, but yeah, it just felt I feel like when I'm watching any like type of coming of age movie, I really enjoy watching that type of like confusion and self-exploration and not being sure. I like seeing it, and so it feels like relatable and satisfying to watch, and it was satisfying and relatable to act and to do. So yeah.
And also just like the Ro character, being non-binary, it was just like there.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, didn't have to be a huge conversation for this specific film.
I love the little glimpses that we get into the future through older Elliot. You know, how much of that how deliberate did you want to be in terms of like what you wanted to show about like the future, or like between the conversations with them about what older Elliot's like career path looks like, or all of that, because you do parse it out so deliberately with enough for the audience to kind of get an idea of, but not necessarily know explicitly about.
Yeah, that was always a pretty like fine line to walk and a tricky thing, because you don't want to leave people with like too many questions that you leave unanswered, but you want to tease a little bit about what's going to happen. But anything you see on camera, obviously, like the Penelope just accept and all the campfire stuff was in the script, but then we had a lot of fun and flexibility once we had like sort of a locked-ish picture in the edit to play around with the voiceover scenes and kind of tease a little bit more once we really understood what the movie was and felt confident in that the heart was there and we could play a little bit more with that area. So then we got to, with the phone calls, kind of added more stuff like the sirens in the basement and the salmon's gonna be gone and jokes like that.
Yeah, it was definitely like, how dark are we gonna wanna go with like climate change and future stuff. But so yeah, I feel like we like always were like throwing out weird jokes, and it was kind of just like, riding that line or something. But it was kind of fun to do that and just do a little nod.
The Penelope Disick one is A+. I'd love to hear about your very epic Justin Bieber dance scene. It's very incredible. How was it going into filming that and preparing for that and getting to emulate Bieber himself?
It was so good. It was so fun. I love him, and it was so fun to do. Like, I mean, it was originally a different, a different song in the script, and Megan, like, we couldn't get the rights to it or something, but yeah, because we were doing drugs in the scene, and it was like a Disney song, so you couldn't use it. But and then Megan like asked like what was like the song, like what was the performance of like my generation that like everybody would be like, oh my god, like that was it, and I just knew immediately.
It was like no pause.
No pause. Like it was. I actually think I cut you off to tell like I was like, what was on the ground? And yeah, I mean the dude like getting in the getup was like, ooh, it did actually do something to me in a scary way a little, because I was in a weird mood for the next couple days. Like I was just.
She literally sat like this in her set chair for like 3 days.
I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I felt hot, okay? It's fine. Like, and yeah, and like Maddie and Crease are literally professional dancers, so we like they got like us like a dance studio, and we just like learned, but it was just so stupid and so fun. And yeah, I will cherish that forever. I love that I have that forever. I really do.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank this wonderful group of women for tonight.
Hey, cheese.
Watching that movie was really cool because I connected with Aubrey Plaza's character, but like you reminded me of my sister, so it was like me trying to like, what would I tell my sister? Thank you so much
I will absolutely.
for that.